Hello there. How is everyone? Sunday. It's early Sunday morning. I hope you're all having a fantastic weekend. Look, in the description of this video, there is a link to a video over on Plunder's channel. And I'd say, look, go and have a look at it. And what I want you to do is have a look at it and see whether your thoughts align with my thoughts. Because I think we have to be, as content creators, very, very careful what we do. There's a huge difference between discussing the case, speculating on the information that's out there. You know, like this video will be speculating and having a discussion about the information that's being put forward, and then being a content creator that pushes the information itself. We saw a very similar situation with the Justin situation. You've got the channels that speak about the Justin situation, and then you've got Justin himself that is pushing information and making it look like this is potentially what happened. Because look, a channel that talks about what's being pushed out there and gets people to think subjectively, objectively, can make people understand that the information that's out there has different layers to it. There are different ways to look at things. And that rigidity at looking at whether someone is guilty or whether someone is innocent, the lines can indeed blur. And if you are of a mindset that there is no innocent until proven guilty in the Brian KOHBERGER situation, it might just change your mind if you start to understand what is actually happening on social media. I have a lot of respect for the channel Plunder. They do a fantastic amount of work behind the scenes. Believe me, I know I'm on the platform. I know what it takes to do that kind of work and put a video like that together. You're looking about hours upon hours upon hours of work. The research, the editing, the uploading, everything. It's a long process. And I thought on this last video, I wondered what the purpose of that was. I wonder what the purpose of that video was. Because on one side, I saw someone who works extremely hard to bring information forward, but then there was a feeling of an underlying narrative, an underlying push that didn't fall in line with innocent until proven guilty. And although there was a couple of things that was stated sort of quietly in the background, allegedly, those sort of things, the overall arcing point of the video was to almost document someone's journey and make it look like it was a potential descent into chaos that would result in what we saw happen in Moscow, Idaho. But when you step back and look in and take it really for what it is, there wasn't really anything that was abnormal about the journey that video took you through. Let's have a look at some of the pointers, but like I say, go and have a look and you may or may not see the point that I'm trying to make, but it talks about a guy who some people say was awkward. Some people say he wasn't. Some people talk about a lad who got in with the wrong crowd and got into narcotics. You with me so far? That's a normal journey, you know, and for every one person who goes through that and turns into a serial killer or a mass murderer, there are millions upon millions that don't. We hear people who say that they came into their place of work and perhaps disrespected women, made a comment, how many guys go into pubs and clubs and make a remark that a female may not like or may think, fuck off, dickhead? Again, not unusual. It seemed that as many people who came forward and spoke of these weird situations with Brian that also stemmed back into his sort of earlier teenage years were nothing more than people being reminiscent about what any growing up would be with their friends. We hear about a guy who Brian would try and get in a headlock, and he didn't like that. Didn't like being got in a headlock. And Brian was like, it's just boys being boys. And I can see that boys are boisterous. They wrestle, they fight. That's what they do. And this is something we have children, as you know, if you've been around a while. And how many times do you think we have Hayden coming back and he's like, oh, so-and-so was trying to wrestle me, trying to grapple me, or he hit me in the head, or he was calling me names, or trying to be the dominant figure within a group. It's almost a daily occurrence. Who knows, maybe one day one of those will become a mass murderer and there'll be interviews with the likes of Hayden and he will talk about his times down the park. We talk about Brian's weight loss journey, and I was quite upset the fact that the word moobs were used, and the fact that it was like, oh, he had surgery because his drastic and quick weight loss had left him with moobs. And I'm thinking to myself, what relevance does that even have? What relevance does that genuinely have? What part of somebody's weight loss journey, or the fact that they were bullied potentially horrendously by other people around them, both boys and girls, to push someone into a situation where they felt that they needed to take drastic action on their weight? You know, that's, in a way, that's body shaming. And again, I don't see what good that does talking about that at this stage. I just cannot. Talks about jobs, talked about Brian working at a place where they filleted fish, and the guy had said that Brian just wasn't that good at it and he wasn't the most personable person. I have friends who are not the most personable people. I generally don't like a lot of people. Does that make me a mass murderer? When I go out in public, I expect things to be done a certain way, and I am a stickler for people doing their job properly. And if they don't, or if they give me a product or a service that is subpar, I will be rude. Does that make me a mass murderer? People talk about, it went on to say about the Madison Mogan situation and the fact that they're saying that he was stalking her. He had pictures on his phone downloaded. How do we know that that is even true? How do we know that that is right? And where is this information even coming from? Do you imagine someone in one of these state officers that are working behind the scenes with this crime, how horrific it is, and they are leaking this type of information? Because this type of information, if this gets out, and we are saying that someone has physically gone to a news reporter that subsequently filtered down into a video like this one, or like Plunder's, and it's saying that they are releasing information about this case, what could Brian's defence team do with that kind of information? And we could also argue at what boy doesn't, at some point in his life, have a fantasy about a certain individual. Does that mean that they will indeed go on to murder them? Brian, there are little things that were said about how he would upset someone or he would treat them a certain way, but he would then go back and try and apologise to these people for his treatment of them. Like he felt bad for the way he actually considered what he had done. He had realised how he had been, and he had tried to make amends. And for the most part, it seemed that he was shunned for doing so. And we can only speculate around that. But again, we're just talking about what is being pushed as a narrative on social media. I mentioned the other day about the trial by social media versus the trial in the courtroom and how they will differ. But how far has it gone on social media with people pushing specific information, specifics like these photographs that were apparently on his phone, and where that must have come from for that to be accurate? How does that go against tainting a jury pool or forcing the defence to say this just isn't fair? This isn't a fair trial. Two scenarios could come of this beyond a normal route of justice. And that is that this pushing of information and stating that it's factual and stating that it came from sources close to the case could potentially pull a guilty man back into the public. And if Brian is the guy, it would be quite fair to say that he could be incredibly, incredibly dangerous. But again, innocent until proven guilty. And if you strip away all the stuff that is potentially made up, what is there really on Brian? And like I say, I'm not pushing whether he's guilty or innocent. I believe he should get due process. The other alternative is that it does taint everybody. It taints everyone's perception of Brian. And if there is something else that should be noted here, whether there was another person and Brian was just a driver or just part of a bigger picture, then he could take the fall because he's been trialled within social media and found guilty. And all people will remember when they hear the name Brian KOHBERGER is the information that they heard on social media. And those lines between what is real and what is pushed as real will be well and truly blurred. Let me know what you think down below. Go check that video out on Plunders. Like I say, there's a lot of work. There's some good stuff. And I have a lot of respect for that channel. I just felt in certain parts of it, it felt like it was trying to make the pieces fit. Almost like a trial by social media. That's me. I'm done. I'll catch you all in the next one.